And we're back. Let us learn more from our featured homeschooling family.
Hi, I'm Robby. This is my wife, Monica. We are the De Luzuriagas. We have 5 children and we've been homeschooling for the last 7 years. We chose to homeschool because early in our marriage, we decided that we wanted to be intentional with the kind of family that we would raise. We identified our top 3 priorities for the family. The first would be God, the second would be family, and the third would be our mission. We have to be really intentional. With God, we decided that we wanted to teach our children to love God above all, and we decided that we didn't want to just teach them or ask somebody else to teach them about God. We wanted to show them ourselves, and we decided that homeschooling would give us that time and the opportunity to be able to do that. In terms of family, we wanted our children to understand that the family is the nucleus of their lives next to the Lord. In order to do that, we also saw that we have to be together all the time, as much as we could be. And we realized that it would be good for us to have time at home, but also when we go out, it was important for us to be together.
We want them to see how we are very intentional about their lives. And we also want to be there with them as things happen to them in their lives. As they get exposed to different kinds of people that think and behave a different way, we want to be able to guide them there.
Our family's mission really is focused on a nonprofit that we started. It's called Philippines Without Orphans. We wanted to make sure that they love their neighbors as well, because that's biblical. We've learned that the purest form of love is compassion. So we want to make sure that we're together with our children as we raise them and as we help orphans and as we help families. We want to make sure that our children are exposed to that and are able to experience that with us.
So you want them to pursue the right goals and have the skill set that they need to be able to pursue these goals.
Another reason why we chose to homeschool is because we want to be intentional with developing our children's character. We think that every child needs to learn grit. We've chosen to homeschool so that they could see and experience different things which will allow them to learn grit. We also want to be the ones to show them how it is to be courageous. We want to show them how it is to be disciplined as well.
Robby and I agreed that we would divide the homeschooling this way. I would take care of the theoretical parts. I teach the kids the skills, the basics, whatever's in the books. And then when it comes to practical application, I pass it on to Rob. So our typical day would basically starts with reading their Bible and prayer. They talk to us about how it's a foundational thing in their day, and they really notice the difference of their days when they do not start it that way.
I spend time with them while I'm preparing for work to talk about how they feel and what they think. I want to know what stories they have to tell, what experiences they're sharing, and I do that to make sure that I'm fully aware of what's going on with my children, both externally and internally.
So we finish all of our homeschooling, all of the academics happen in the morning, and then their sports and extracurricular stuff happen in the afternoon. Now there are some days that are one-off days when they have to do demos or whatever for their sports. We do homeschooling on the road, or I have online material that they can use so that they can still catch up with their lessons while we're out.
The difference with homeschooling is that they spend their day interacting with people of different ages. They also have to interact with kids from different schools. Some are homeschooled, some are conventionally schooled. They have to deal with a good mix, and at the same time, they also have to deal with some kids that have special needs. And that's where we're able to teach them leadership and character. We help them understand what these kids are going through, what the parents are going through, what the root causes are. And we do that because that's our chance to teach our kids to develop wisdom.
Right now, the thing that I'm very intentional about teaching my kids is two things. Making sure that they continue to have a love for learning. So the way that we do that is we always make sure that they are able to try new things.
It's important for us right now to be able to train our children to first of all be pragmatic. So we teach them to be logical and to learn logical things so that they can make logical decisions. We want to make sure also that they do not lose their desire to explore. We want to make sure that all our children have the confidence and are equipped to go out there and learn new things, take risks, find out what else they can pursue out there, what else they can learn.
I'm very intentional now about giving them the right perspective about failure. My oldest boy, Santino, he would always want to make sure that his work was perfect. So that became very stressful for him. And growing up, the past few years, I had to show him that it's not a bad thing to fail. And part of that is my husband's also helping him have the right perspective. That when you fail and when you're not able to do something right, that's when you're actually learning and you won't get the first go.
Yeah, so I remember something that John Maxwell wrote about. He called it failing forward. And we want to make sure that our kids do not spend the rest of their lives running away from failure. We want them to understand that the formula to success is learning to fail repeatedly for as long as you learn from it. And we help them process that because it's not easy to accept failure.
I think part of also what makes it easier for them to accept failure is really showing them where their identity is coming from. It's not in the things that they accomplish, it's not in their leadership in sports, but it's really finding their identity in Christ. So as long as we are intentional about bringing them back to that, no matter what happens to them, they're able to see things with the right lenses, that they're doing things for God and not for themselves.
I'd like to encourage all of you out there who are thinking of homeschooling or even just curious about it. I'd encourage you to look at it a little more. There are many things that we've learned in the last 7 years that we've homeschooled. It definitely has become a lifestyle for us. And I did mention that we had some goals, some priorities, God, family, and mission. And that has been happening for the most part of the last 7 years. And I think that our direction will determine the trajectory of our family and even our children later on as they marry off and have children. We think that what we're doing now is really making a world of difference for them. And we see it. We see it in the results.
It happens when you least expect it, that your kids will just pop up and show you that they actually learned something that you've been teaching for years. Or a random parent or a random person will come to you and say that, hey, your kids are amazing, you're an amazing mom. So just keep going. The Lord's there to help you, and if your family's doing it together, there's no reason for you to feel like giving up.
Next on values, courage.
Welcome to Values You Can Use. Today's value is all about being courageous, or courage. And where do we see that in the Bible? There's a moment where Moses is passing it on to Joshua, and here's the charge, Joshua 1:9. Be strong and courageous. Do not tremble or be dismayed. Why? For the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. So in instilling this idea of courage to our children, if they have Jesus in their hearts, He is their Lord and Savior. If we have that, then we can be courageous.
With our daughter, Tiana, I remember she used to be fearful of the dark. Sometimes she still is. And what my husband told her was, you don't have to fear because Jesus is here. So she was going through the hallway one time and she said, do not fear, Jesus is here. And she internalized that. And it's about assuring our children that even if we may not be there all the time, that Jesus is always with them. And it's also about encouraging them to go outside of their comfort zone. You know, there was a time when our kids were at a play place, I won't name the name, but they were being bullied by somebody. And one of my sons came up to me and said, "What should I do, Mom?" And I said, "Well, maybe you should try reaching out to that kid. Maybe he's somebody lonely." And it was uncomfortable for them, but they did that. They reached out to this boy, and at the end of their hour there, that boy told my sons, "Can we be friends? You're my best friend." And apparently he was some lonely kid who needed somebody to reach out to him. So sometimes it's also about teaching our kids to go outside of their comfort zone, what is easy for them, and challenging them to do something that may be difficult or uncomfortable.
Right, and reach out to other people specifically in that case, right? A practical way, one last tip that we want to give is stretching our children beyond what they think their limits are to limits we feel that they can actually stretch beyond. For example, we were in Palawan with my son Eden, and we were gonna climb this tall tower, take a wonderful zip line, but he was afraid. He said, "I don't wanna do it, Daddy." He starts crying. I'm like, "Eden, you are a young man. We need to be brave. Remember, have no fear. Jesus is here." So he starts whimpering, "Okay, Daddy." He goes up all the way to the tower. He's still whimpering. And I say, "Eden, have no fear. Jesus is here." As he closes his eyes and straps himself in, he gets pushed off. He takes the zip line. He starts opening his eyes. And at the end of it, let me tell you something. He says, "Dad, I want to go again." And I realized as long as we know what their limits are and they think that they can't go past a certain point, encourage them to be brave and courageous and see what God can do in changing that in their young hearts. So be courageous. God bless.
Wow, wasn't that meaningful? Up next, more great answers.
It's easier to give a grade to a multiple choice item test. But how about if it's artwork, it's a dance, or it's a sports demonstration, or probably cooking? Is there a way of really telling if these things are really excellent? If there is a way to grade these things objectively, wouldn't you want it? Gladly, we have it. It's called rubrics. Rubric is an evaluation tool to measure student attainment against a consistent set of criteria. It usually comes in a table format with a scale, normally of 1 to 4, with descriptions in each scale. For example, if we are grading an essay, 4 would correspond to exceeding standards, 3, meeting standards, 2, developing, and 1, beginning. If we are grading the essay in terms of content, 4 would have a description like all details strongly support the main idea. 3, if some details strongly support the main idea. 2, if the content has scattered ideas. And 1, if the content has unclear ideas. Grading the content of an essay would be much easier with this kind of rubric. Rubric gives an objective, easily understood, simple, and explicit grading of performance assessments. If you want to know more about how to grade your child using the rubric assessment tool, you can ask your homeschool provider. Learn without borders. Happy homeschooling!
Coming up, Jessica for Out of the Box.
Welcome back to Out of the Box. This is Cheska, and today is all about Octoland 4D Plus. Download the free app Octoland 4D Plus either from the App Store or Google Play. Launch the app and browse to the menu to see the different kinds of occupations and learn more about it. Oh, and by the way, you can purchase this Color Me book separately. Let's try it. You can also experience it in 4D Plus. Now that's another fun way to learn about different jobs that people have in Octaland 4D Plus. This has been your Out of the Box buddy, Cheska, and I'll see you soon! Launch the app and browse the menu. You can also buy this, just kidding. Browse to the menu to see the different kinds of occupations and learn from it. But this time I gotta do it. This has been your Out of the Box buddy, Cheska. I'll see you next time! Wait, sorry.
Finally, a YouTube channel dedicated to inform, influence, and inspire you to homeschool. I hope you're excited to watch what we have in store for you. So stick around, give us a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel.